Heyo everybody, Haku here with a Tower of God discussion that's not planned. I didn't want to take notes and structure it at all. I just wanted to talk about Tower of God off the top of my head, just because that's really what I want to do. I really want to just sit here with the camera recording me and just go wherever my brain takes me and talk about Tower of God for a minute. Because these are all going to be things that I've been thinking about for a while, but especially in the last week since Tower of God has gone on to hiatus, I really wanted to talk about a lot of this. And I'm still planning to be part of the big discussion that everybody wants to have together about the nest and all. And a lot of this I'm probably going to repeat again in that discussion, but again, without anybody else to bounce ideas off of. I wanted to just think about what my ideas are on their own, just with no other outside influence. What is it that I'm thinking about in regards to Tower of God right now? And this was prompted not by like everybody else's videos, but I'll be discussing some of that stuff here. This was prompted by me really quickly in the past week going back and just like quickly rereading like Dollar Show and Name Hunt Station, and that really making me think even more about the nest and about Tower of God in general, and about what I think about it. And so there's going to be like in the arc ranking video, I had a ton of praises for the nest and a bunch of criticisms, and here I'm going to go over a bunch of praises, but more importantly, I want to talk about criticisms of the nest. I'm probably going to end up talking a lot about praises too, because I genuinely like the nest. But again, this didn't in any way influence me making this video. But I guess I also wanted to talk about Naya and Ryzen's criticism video, and Dr. Bonehead doing his recent video on like talking about criticism and stuff. So really quick before I get into talking about the nest and Tower of God in general, my thoughts on criticism of Tower of God are like, I don't know, it depends. I'm always going to be super open and honest with you about my praises and my criticisms, and I think you have other series that I've covered to look at, and also past Tower of God stuff to look at when it comes to knowing that I'm going to be honest when I like or don't like something. Because here's the thing, I was criticizing the stuff at the end of Floor of Death, saying this was badly paced, I wasn't a big fan of this. I was saying that, and at the time everybody was like 10 out of 10, greatest arc ever. Like, I was getting roasted for not really being into that latter half of the Floor of Death at the time, but I still stuck with it that, you know, I wasn't super duper into the second half of that, and I actually feel like I feel like a lot of fans have sort of ended up at that same place where I hear that a lot now, where I heard that none whatsoever when it was happening, but now I hear a ton people being like, yeah, I wasn't that into the second half of the Floor of Death. Or then the beginning of the Hidden Floor, I was like, I love the beginning of the Hidden Floor, I love this like game world stuff, I'm really enjoying it. But at the time people were roasting me in the comments every week, how are you enjoying this? This is awful. But I was loving it. And then again, it was happening both ways with Last Station, where I'm like, Last Station is so fun to read, it's super fun to read, but it's not very well written. And half of my comments were like, this is the most perfect arc ever, how can you say it's not well written? And the other half were like, this is trash, Tower of God's gone down the toilet, how can you say that this is entertaining? So it's like, it happened both ways, but I was honest about that. And then with other series, I spent like 4 years saying, wow, Wano fucking sucks, wow, One Piece has gone down the fucking drain, holy shit, this is bad. And then eventually it got to the point where I was like, I can't take it anymore, I'm dropping this, wow, this is awful. So yeah, again, me being truthful, I spent years of my life reading and watching One Piece, absolutely loved the series. Or I don't know if I should say love or loved. I love One Piece. I fucking hate Wano Piece. Wano is awful. So again, very honest about that, to the point where this series that I spent years and years covering every single week, I just stopped covering it because I didn't feel like talking about it anymore. If that happened with Tower of God, if I genuinely truly didn't like something with Tower of God and it was beyond the point of just criticizing anymore, I would again just be like, shit, I'm not talking about Tower of God anymore. So the fact that I'm still talking about it shows that, you know, still care about it and stuff. But again, this is just me defending before I get into criticizing where Tower of God has gone a bit. But these are all things I've said a million times before, I feel like. Or like with The Promised Neverland, I read the entire series start to finish. There were things I was extremely critical about, but I still finished reading it and everything. And again, I still gave my truthful impressions, the things I liked, the things I didn't like all the way through. So a lot of these things, the praises I'm giving of the Nest, the criticisms of the Nest, if you've watched my videos week to week, I've said these probably a billion times, but you're going to see it condensed into one video here. To start off with some praises, and again, I guess I'll be comparing it to past Tower of God a lot. I guess that's one thing that I plan to bring up in the big discussion that we're having, that is very important to this and very important to how I view the Nest. Just to let you know how I view the Nest. One reason I'm so not critical of it in a lot of ways is because I was reading it week to week, covering it on the channel week to week at the same time as Wano. And a lot of times when people bring up complaints about, oh, well, there's not that much stakes, or, oh, well, not enough good guy characters died, I always think, I've seen Naruto arcs in the past, I've seen Bleach arcs in the past, I've seen Fairy Tail arcs in the past. So for me, it's like, I'm reading The Nest and I'm just like, I have seen so much worse or so much less good in the past. So I'm just like, all of your complaints, like, I can agree with these criticisms, but at the same time, I'm like not super duper heavy on the criticisms just because I'm like, I've seen so much worse in the past. And the thing, I wasn't criticizing the Nest too much week to week because I'm reading and covering the Nest week to week alongside Wano. And it's like, compared to Wano, compared to what Oda was doing, he was making Siyu look like just the biggest brain author of all time. Like, compared to Wano, the Nest is immaculate. It's incredible. So again, it's a thing of, you put this rotten, disgusting fruit beside a nice, fresh, ripe apple, and it's like, oh, the apple looks even better because it's beside this just garbage. So again, Wano week to week made the Nest look even so much better. And like I said, what prompted me to make this video is I just reread Dollar Show and Name Hunt Station, and rereading that, I'm like, rereading Name Hunt Station, especially when I was rereading Name Hunt Station, I was like, holy shit, the Nest could never. I was like, wow, the Nest, like, here's the thing, and getting into my criticisms and things I've said a million times, the thing is, I don't care about bomb fighting high rankers. I don't care about how large the scale has grown. Everybody's like, well, I don't care about climbing the tower anymore. I don't care about the regulars anymore because they're so much weaker. Bomb needs to be fighting family heads and stuff. And I've seen people being like, Bomb is stronger than everybody except the family heads right now, even though Bomb has said he's not stronger than Jinsung. But again, then White was stronger than Jinsung, but he beat White. And all of that, I just feel like CU jumped the shark incredibly and muddled the power scaling all to shit, but we'll get to that. But it's just one of those things where it's like, I like the Nest. I think that it includes some of the best writing ever. Even compared to Name Hunt Station, even compared to Dollar Show, the way that side characters are treated, the way that we got Yu Han Sung treated, the way that Hatsu and Cha were treated, the way that so many side characters were treated, I think the side characters were treated better than almost any other point in the series. They were treated so well, and so many things, like a lot of the flashbacks, the first 2 chapters of the Sriracha flashback especially, were just incredibly well written. So I care about this. I enjoy this. I think it's incredibly well written. But if you take the amount of care and attention and how much I am invested in Tower of God right now, it's like, yeah, I care about Tower of God. I'm invested in Tower of God. But if you compare that to how much more invested I would be if this was about climbing the tower, if this was about the regulars, there's no contest. Compared to how much I would be invested if this was about Bomb passing the test to get to the next floor and going against regulars and stuff like it was in like early Hell Train or Workshop Battle, I would be so much more invested. It's not even close. Compared to that, I do not give a shit about Bomb fighting high rankers. I do not care about that. I do not want to see that in comparison. There's like literally no comparison to me. What Tower of God used to be, climbing the tower, taking these tests, going against other teams of regulars, is so much more compelling to me. The idea of that, the concept behind that, which is the concept that the series started and built itself upon, is so much better than what so many people have said is DBZ light, just beams and punches, and that's all that matters. So again, while I'm invested, while I think it's really well written, compared to what it could be if we stuck with tests and climbing, there's no contest. Sticking with tests and climbing is so much better. That's such a better concept for a series. I would be so much more invested. And I guess that's really just a season 3 thing, because even in Hell Train we were still kind of doing that. And I feel like we still could get back to that. I feel like Siu's really shot himself in the foot with the power scaling, but I don't really give I don't care about power scaling anyway. I think that, I don't know if we're past fixing it or not, but I'll talk about ways I think it could have been done where it didn't need to be fixed. So I guess I talked about some of the things I like. I've talked about things I like a million times, how the characters were treated, how well written some of it was, how good some of the characters are in the Nest. I like all of that. I think some of the fights are some of the best in the series as well. The fights are really good. But I think where we went astray is just trying, and I know a million people have said it a million times, trying to make Bomb too strong too fast. And I know that a lot of people will respond to that by being like, oh, he has to be super strong, because by the time we get to the top, we have to defeat high rankers, and not just high rankers, but the highest high rankers, the family heads and everything. But, like, that doesn't mean we need to be that strong right now at, like, the 50-something floor. We don't need to go that quickly. Like, here's the thing, and we could have had the other characters keep up, too. This is something that I brought up, too, I think, in the arc ranking, but I'll get to it right here in a second after I finish this thought. But it's like, we went from, like, narrative-wise, I know there was a time skip in there, but narrative-wise, we went from, like, Bomb being able to survive against a ranker in Last Station, then jumping to, oh, now Bomb can Bomb can survive against a high ranker, Bomb can defeat a ranker, Bomb can, like, all within the course of, like, a few dozen chapters, honestly. When it could have been like like 50 to 100, we could have slowly built to that instead of just being like, we're going from regular level to high ranker in just like the span of a couple dozen chapters. It's like, okay, that's way too fast. Like, even if Bomb needs to be at that level eventually, like once we're in the hundreds, like, he doesn't need to be there now. So it's a bit of a ridiculous growth. Which is why I think Siu absolutely shot himself in the foot with it. And all the other characters could have caught up to. This is something I've brought up before, but the characters surrounding Bomb from the beginning in Season 1, the like main teammates he had, the main other regulars, were not just normal. They were special. Except like Shibisu, but Shibisu relies on his mind. Kun is a member of the 10 great families who has these big lofty ambitions to surpass his father and stuff, and like he's kind of a main character, so we know that somehow or some way he's gonna kind of get a bit of a push, you know. Rak is one of the last surviving sort of pure-blooded descendants of the native ones that we know of. Anak is this sort of rogue princess of Zahard who was born with the blood of Zahard, rather than having it given to her like the other princesses. Andrasi is a princess who might go rogue. Hatsu is like this pure-hearted swordsman, and then you give him Donghae's that's a special sword that only responds to people with a pure heart, but if you don't have a pure will, it's gonna like kill you instead. Like, again, then we get to Elaine, who's been ruling over the Name Hunt Station for 1,000 years. You've got Hockney, who's a Floor of Death native who can see the future. Like, there's so many special cases where I'm like, you don't need to separate, like, people have been saying, so, oh, you need to separate Bomb from the regulars. You don't. Just build them along with him. There's no reason to say that, or like to not say that they're special. They can defeat rankers by the time, or like weak rankers by the time they get to the 50th floor. Like right now, if you were to say because Charlie was the one that was used, like, put up against Bomb to show his growth or whatever. If you put up Charlie against Tatsu and had Hatsu win, I would be like, yeah, okay, that's not unbelievable. Just, like, have the side characters just be like, yeah, they're that strong too. There's, like, just say that rankers aren't, like, we heard that rankers were gods to regulars, and then high rankers are gods to rankers, but the lie detector's already determined that that was a lie. So you could just say the power scaling isn't that vast, the difference isn't that deep, so that if somebody is like the strongest among regulars and like is special, is different, their main characters, they can take down weak rankers by the time they hit the 50th floor. Like, I don't think that's unbelievable or unreasonable. If you put Elaine against Charlie, Elaine better damn win. Like, that's the way I view it. Like, there's no reason why you couldn't just say, yeah, they're at that point. And then by the time we're in the 70s, say that, you know, they can hold their own against rankers. And because again, once you get to the 135th, you're a ranker yourself. So say like when you're halfway there, by the time you're halfway there, it's like, okay, you're probably already, like if you're special, if you've been through a lot, you're probably already as strong as a lot of rankers or stronger than a lot of rankers. By the time they get to the 100th floor and they're almost at the end where they might be made high rankers even, depending on how strong they are when they reach the end or whatever, like, if that's the case, like, again, if they're high ranker strength or weaker than, or like stronger than some of the lower high rankers by the time they're in the hundreds, I think that makes perfectly fine sense. Like, you don't need to be like, well, once they become rankers, they're really weak and then they need to keep getting stronger after that. It's like, no, you can just have them like end game level at the end game. There's no reason to not have like Hatsu or Andrasi or Anak or any of those characters ranker level now and then high ranker level by the time we hit 100. Like, I don't see a problem with that. That keeps them sort of in line with Bomb. You can justify it because they're all special cases. Bomb or Rack now has the Ancient Spear on top of being a descendant of a native one. Like, again, all of this stuff is stuff that you can justify and you can just write that way without destroying the power scaling. But instead we go way too far, way too fast, have Bomb up here with high rankers and stuff, like showing off against high rankers, and then have all of the regulars like, well, I guess we can't do anything whatsoever. And I've gotten a little bit off topic just talking about how the power scaling is broken, but it's like, it doesn't need to be. And like, if we did things that way, then other special, really talented regulars could still be a challenge for Bomb and the other characters. They could still be a challenge, and we could still continue on with the climbing storyline, the thing that the entire series is built upon. And I just don't know why we just threw all that away. Why we threw the basic premise of the series away. I don't get it. So again, here's the thing. I love Tower of God for what it is now, which is just a regular battle shonen. And as a regular battle shonen, I think it's a really good regular battle shonen. But that's not what it was before. And if it had stuck to what it was before, as good as it is now, I think it would be even better than it is now. If it just stuck to what brought it to the dance in the first place. So yeah, I guess that is my main criticism. And things that I've criticized before. Like, that's why I don't sit and spend time talking about criticisms every single video, because my criticisms aren't with that chapter in particular. If they're connected to something that happens, I'll bring them up. But you don't want me to preface every video by saying, okay, before we get into reading today, I think that Bomb has gotten too strong too quickly. I think that the power scaling is borked. I think that, like, the premise of the series has been lost. Because now we're at the point where, again, and I'm hoping that with this stuff coming in, with this tournament, and Andrasi being brought in, the princesses being brought in, like the regular princesses, I think that maybe this could take things back down to a regular level, and Siu could maybe correct course by just saying, yeah, Lilial and Shilial are that strong. By saying, yeah, Andrasi's that strong. And just saying, the gap isn't that big. And just trying to correct course somewhat, somehow, because I think that's the issue. I think that we went way too far, way too fast. I think with Season 3 so far, the Nest Saga, that see you jump the shark on Bomb's power, because think about even at the last station, like there was this really reasonable progression. Bomb was struggling with Yura and Daniel in Revolution Road, struggling with Joaquin, who is, like, Joaquin is technically white, but he's, that sounds weird to say, but he's also, like, he's just the regular version. He's just a regular. He's a really strong regular, but he's a regular. He has special powers, but he's a regular. Bomb goes up against Kaiser, who's a really strong regular, but at the same time still a regular, and struggles. And that's compelling. Bomb going up against these great villains, like Kaiser was a great villain, Joaquin was a great villain. Going up against these great villains and struggling is compelling. It's good. And then we get to the Floor of Death, which honestly, I feel like Bomb being involved in the Uric and Hell Joe stuff and Floor of Death, CU says multiple times, he has said multiple times he thinks the biggest mistake he ever made in Tower of God was having Bomb scratch Uric or clash against Uric in Flower of Zygana. And I feel like what he did with Floor of Death, and again Uric being there as part of it, was making that same mistake again. He just did the same thing with Bomb that he did with Flower of Zygana. But then again, you could just view that, like Flower of Zygana, as another outlier. And then we get into the Hidden Floor, where again, he's going against Zahard, the king of the tower, but it's the regular version of Zahard. And it's a pretty even fight. And it's really good. It's really compelling. But then after that, we just, instead of being like, we're going against strong regulars, and occasionally, like, that's something we could do. He survives against Charlie. He survives against a ranker. And then as we go up from 50 to 100, he is getting better at fighting rankers, and regulars are having a tougher time catch up with him, to the point where when he's at 100, when he's ready to face Ariehone's special test, he'll be at the point where he can defeat rankers and he can survive against high rankers, and maybe the rest of his teammates, they're behind because they're not irregulars, but they're not like that insanely far behind. But instead of stretching it out from climbing 50 to 100, which we still have to do, we still have to do this to get to the 135th floor, we just condensed that and said, oh no, he's gonna just be better than rankers and now be better than high rankers, like, extremely quickly for no reason, really. Like, it's something that we didn't need to do for the story. Not this quickly. So here's the thing. He's already this strong, but like I said, that doesn't change the fact that we still need to climb. So now the whole time, from where we are now to the 100th floor, is like, what do you do with Bomb? Like, do we cut away and just watch the other characters climbing, like, without him because his power scaling is fucked? Do we just, like, what do we do? What do we do? Do we, like, do a reset with the princesses and stuff and kind of bring things back to some new level of normalcy? I think that's maybe the best way to go. Have this be like a lot of people have said, like, a new workshop battle. Have this be a new workshop battle to try to hit the reset button a little bit on some of this stuff. I don't know. I don't know. And again, this is all thoughts off the top of my head. It's not that organized, so I'm sorry if it's a mess or all over the place. I don't know how concise I'm really being with anything, or how much the point is coming across. That I just think that we messed things up by Bomb getting too strong too quickly and losing the climbing aspect of climbing the tower, when we really didn't need to do that in order to continue the story as is. Like, we could have, you could have written everything that he wrote, only not destroyed the power, like, just, it only takes little tweaks to not destroy the power scaling here. But we just completely destroyed it for, like, no reason. It, like, doesn't benefit the story really at this point. Like, it's too early for it to have benefited the story to do this, and now we're stuck with, like, 40 some more floors to climb before we get to Ariehoan, and Bomb with basically nothing to do until that time except watch people fight over his hand in marriage, and then him joining the tournament. And that's another thing, again, to bring up more criticisms. I don't like the idea of Bomb joining the tournament. Like I said when I was doing my reactions, Bomb joining the tournament doesn't automatically make it bad. I'm not automatically saying that it's going to be bad. I'm just saying that there's a lot more reason to worry about it not being good than before, when it was like, oh, it's going to be the princesses fighting. And I think that's reflected. I saw people talking beforehand that They warned me. They were like, oh, the last 3 to 5 chapters are coming out, and the last 2 or 3 chapters have like really low scores on Naver, so I wonder what's going to happen when the English release comes out or whatever. And hinted at that beforehand. And I think that has to do with shifting to the idea that Bomb is going to be in this tournament. I think a lot of people were like really hyped for the idea, yeah, princess tournament, or at least like female character tournament. And then Bomb's like, oh, well, I'm competing too. And everybody's like, well, what does that mean then? Does that mean rankers are going to be in here? Does that mean that Bomb has to fight with his hands tied behind his back? It just takes something that's a really good idea, and it's like, well, now that Bomb's there, the power scaling's fucked. Because Bomb's power scaling is fucked. Because now it's like, well, if he's against... Like we saw when Lilial attacked him, everybody complaining Lilial shouldn't be attacking him like this. Because Bomb's power scaling is fucked. Everybody's like, a Princess of Zahard couldn't possibly touch him. He's a god that only the family heads can handle now. And it's just broken. It's broken. I think that's the best way to put it, is that what made sense before, or what was like a slow progression, like, okay, we understand the power creep, okay, we understand where we're going, has now just been broken. It's just been broken, and it needs to be repaired somehow. Because if we go on like this, it's just either going to be illogical that anybody stands up to Bomb whatsoever, or it's going to be boring because nobody's going to ever stand up to Bomb again. Yeah, I think that it's broken in that way. And I think that's an issue with the tournament too. I think the tournament would be much better if Bomb wasn't in it. I think it'd be maybe even easier to fix things that way, but maybe we can fix things by saying, you know what, the regular princesses are still princesses, and we can sort of try to mend the power scaling a bit there. And there are always going to be people that are going to be like, but what about in the nest when this happened, or when Bomb did this? And it's like, we're going to have to look at it like when he injured Yurik and say, like, he's an irregular, shit happens, but the power scaling needs serious repairs, because it's busted. It's busted currently. Let's see, there was something else I wanted to bring up too. Oh yeah, Bomb's power-ups. Another, like, when we're talking about, oh, why don't you have criticisms or whatever, and I do a lot. One criticism I always bring up is Bomb's power-ups, and I want to talk more about my thoughts on that here while I'm talking about everything else. This will probably be the last topic I touch for now. Like I said, I had a lot of praises, but I wanted to get my criticisms out here too, and there's all stuff I'll talk about again in the future when I talk with other people about the nest. Leviathan's place in the story and the stuff that he can provide, as far as like Trauma Ray flashbacks or Trauma Ray like masterminding this whole thing, is really, really good. But as a power-up, I don't think Bomb needed it at all at this point, and I could say that about a lot of Bomb's power-ups. But here's the thing. What I think is, like, and people always defend it by saying, well, he has to be strong enough to fight, he has to be strong enough to fight high rankers, he has to be strong enough to fight the family heads by endgame. That's by endgame. We still have over half the tower to go. And not only do we have half the tower to go, the thorn that kills the king is with Bomb. He has 2 of the 4 fragments already. He can still get 2 more thorn fragments. The thorn is all that is needed, basically. We don't need this stuff. Then you add in the red and blue Thrissa, and I'm cool with that, because I feel like he's had the blue Thrissa from the start, throw in the red Thrissa with that, and it adds a little bit more of a compelling twist. He didn't need it, but it works. Anything beyond that, the souls, we didn't need that for Bomb. The power-up from White or whatever, we don't really need that. The Leviathan, we don't need it. Like, the red and blue Thrissa and the Thorn is all that Bomb needs. And one of the issues with getting Leviathan and stuff to me that I think is being assuaged a bit, because Leviathan's being developed as a decent character, which is why I don't really hate on this, I'm just kind of a little critical of it, is Bomb absorbed Black March apparently, but we haven't seen Black March whatsoever. We've barely seen the red and blue Thrissa. We've pretty much not seen the Thorn. Instead of just throwing new power-ups on him, develop those. Make the Thorn more compelling. Make the Thrissas more compelling. And that's another thing I remember, because again, I've talked about a billion times, me reading this series since like late season 1, early season 2, I remember reading Workshop Battle week to week, and people actually had huge criticisms with Workshop Battle. There were a lot of people who hated the Thorn. There were a lot of people who were like, Bam is this irregular, he's not like Naruto, he's not like Ichigo, he's not like these shonen protagonists. He's different. He's strong in his own way, but he has a different story. And people were so pissed at the Thorn because it's like, now we're putting the Thorn in him. The Thorn is just Kurama. The Thorn's just the Nine-Tailed Fox. The Thorn's just Hollow Ichigo, his Zangetsu. Like, people were kind of pissed at the Thorn when Workshop Battle was going on week to week, because people were like, we didn't want this or need Bam to have this demon sleeping inside him or whatever. We just needed Bam the way he was. And the series shifted when he got the Thorn to be more shonen-ish and be more similar to the tropes that you find in like Naruto and Bleach and all that. And then you go, and now I feel like season 3 has lost the plot a little bit with just taking us away from what the series was about. But again, I don't think it's all doom and gloom. If, like, what I tell myself now is, Tower of God's just a regular battle shonen. And as a battle shonen, I think it's good. I really like it as a battle shonen, as it is now. As a battle shonen, I'm enjoying it more than One Piece right now. I definitely enjoy it more than, like, Naruto or something. So it's one of those things where, like, as a regular battle shonen, I enjoy it. It's fine. But would it be better if it was what it was before? Absolutely. Absolutely. So again, I guess that's why you don't see me complaining too much either, is it's like, because I don't view Tower of God as what I used to view it as that much anymore. If it was what I used to view it as, which was its own unique thing, him climbing the tower and stuff like that, and the way it was written, the sort of intrigue and stuff that went on in like early season 2 and early Hell Train and Workshop Battle, if that was still ongoing and I still viewed it that way, I'd probably like it a whole heck of a lot more. But even now viewing it as a battle shonen, I'm like, yeah, I like it. It's a good battle shonen. But that's what I view it as now. I just view it as a battle shonen. Because that's what it is really now, in my opinion. But I kind of hope that changes. I don't think it's beyond repair. I don't think anything is beyond repair. I think that CU could totally fix things. And it seems like the way he talked in the blog post and stuff that he plans on it. That he plans on trying to repair some of the missteps that were made, to look at the broader series as a whole. And that's what, like, here's the thing, I'm just one person. When I look at other people's criticisms, I usually don't go on the Tower of God subreddit. But I went on the Tower of God subreddit to look at all the criticisms, and the subreddit seemed extremely so much more critical of Tower of God than the YouTube community is. And their criticisms echo a lot of things that I agree with. Their criticisms were all people saying, this is just DBZ light. People saying that this is just beams and punches. And like people saying that what I came for was climbing the tower and all the intrigue that happened in like early season 2. And that's gone. That's not here anymore. What I came was the regulars passing their tests and stuff. That's not here anymore. Problems were solved by these intricate games and people betraying people and these creative ways to get around the test before. Now what are our problems solved by? Bam shooting a beam at something. And the thing is, the power scaling has become so broken that all of Bam's future problems, we can expect him to just shoot a beam at them. And that's the problem. That's the problem. Is that, like, again, if we don't repair things, all of the tension is gone because Bam's too strong and all of his problems are solved the same way. All of everyone's problems are solved the same way. Everything was just who could punch harder, who could shoot the stronger beam. That was all things were. So as much as I love the nest, as much as I love the nest, I put it pretty, I praised it a lot during the arc ranking. But as much as I love it, and as much as I think there's a ton of things to praise, I think there are so many problems. But those problems, here's why I don't put those problems on the nest. The problems with the nest aren't problems with the nest. The problems with the nest are problems with Tower of God. Problems with the series as a whole. They're not just one arc problems. They're things that have been problems since Floor of Death. Floor of Death was a little bit of the jumping the shark point, and then we had Hidden Floor, which brought things back and was good again. And then I think we continued to jump the shark from there. I think that Sue's just gone too far too fast and forgotten that he has a whole rest of the series to write, in a way. So yeah, I think those are my criticisms. And they're not really, talking about the Nest, they're not really criticisms of the Nest. They're just criticisms of Tower of God. And just sort of what it's become and how it's lost its way. So yeah, I would say these were like, what, 40-ish minutes of raw, unfiltered thoughts on the series. Mostly leaning towards critical stuff because I talk about the praise all the time, and I'm going to continue to. I still need to review the past 6 chapters or something, so I'm going to have a lot of praise for those. I really enjoyed them. I'm going to have some criticism too, but again, I enjoyed things. Looking at things from the lens of viewing Tower of God of what it is right now, which is a battle shonen, I have a lot of praises. I have a lot of praises of past things I want to go back and review that I never got to review. So yeah, I have a lot of good things to talk about for the series, and I always talk about those things, but I wanted to really put a focus on the issues that I have. And again, these issues aren't enough for me to be like, oh, Tower of God sucks. Because it doesn't. It's still really, really good. It's really, really good, but it's different. It's not the same. And I guess saying that, when I last did a video somewhat like this, I brought up that I don't think Tower of God has necessarily gotten better or worse. It's just gotten different. And that still sums up my thoughts. I don't think right now, even though I have all these criticisms, those are criticisms for me as a reader. I don't think that there is no such thing as true objectivity. There just straight up isn't. But I don't think that if you try to look at it as objectively as possible, I don't think it's gotten worse. I don't think it's gotten better either. I just think it's changed. It's become different. I think if you prefer battle shonen, if you prefer meathead, DBZ, all I care about is punches and beams and who's stronger than who, you're going to love what Tower of God is now. If you care more about the world building and the characters and the sort of things that they go through, early Tower of God was much better. And I said the same thing with the art. If you prefer a more experimental and loose style, you're going to like the earlier art style more. But if you like a more strict and constrained, but less experimental art style, you're going to like the newer art more. I think that both are really great, actually. And a lot of people, they're like, oh, the art for season 1 is so bad. I don't see it. But yeah, it's just different. I don't think that anything about Tower of God, to me, has gotten better or worse. It's just changed. It's just become different. So, would I prefer it to be what it was before? Absolutely. Absolutely. In terms of investment, in terms of how much I would care about the series, and obviously look at all the things I've done for Tower of God. I care a lot about it. Not done for it as if it needed me, but done for it as all the things that I've done that are Tower of God related. I've done all this stuff. I clearly care about it. But think about how much more I would care about it if it was what it was before. But what it is now, I still care about it. I still like it. It's just different. I don't care about it as much, but quality-wise, I think it's still good. It's just not good in the same way. So, yeah, sorry. I've been meaning to end this video 20 times over, but I think of another thing to say. But I guess that's it. This turned out to be 50 times longer than I thought it'd be or something. But thank you for watching. If you did like the video, comment down there to tell me what your thoughts are, what you thought of my thoughts, all that normal stuff. Subscribe for Tower of God. Like I said, there's tons more Tower of God stuff coming, and much, much more on the channel. Follow on Twitter if you want. If you want a link to the Discord server, ask and I'll give you one. And if you'd like to help support the channel on Patreon, it's patreon.com/Haku with the tubes, or a link will be in the description. And if you would like to, hold on, losing my train of thought. Yeah. Thank you to people who are already patrons, patreon.com/Haku with the tubes or whatever. Yeah, I lost my train of thought. Either way, thank you for watching. I really, really, really do appreciate it. Thank you, and I'll see you all next time.